Well, welcome back, everybody. We are certainly living in a time that's very disruptive, and if we're honest, very disorienting at times for technologists. The pace, the scale of change are unlike anything we've ever seen before. Every week, there's a new tool, new capability, a new model, new headline, new vendors. Hard to keep our heads wrapped around that. And especially for tech leaders, the expectations have never been higher, and the margin for error seems like it's getting smaller and smaller. We're dealing with transformation fatigue. We're dealing with a lot of turbulence around talent. How do we deal with trust and moving an organization forward faster? And, with the world moving this fast, the real question isn't how do we keep up? It's how do we lead? How do we lead different? How do we show up different for our people and our companies today? So today we're going to talk about what it means not just to survive all this change, how to play defense. It's going to be how do we capitalize on it? How do we set ourselves and our companies up to thrive? How do we go on offense with more purpose and clarity and courage? And there's no one better to unpack this than my guest today, Shobie Ramakrishnan. Shobie is the Chief Digital and Technology Officer at GSK. She's a visionary leader. She is brilliant. I just love how she's thinking. I love how she's messaging. Her Shobieisms are so rich. You're going to want to write these down and use them as part of your leadership playbook. And GSK, just one of the world's most science-driven companies doing work that is so important to human health and impact. So Shobie, with that, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your leadership brilliance with the Tech Whispers audience. I'd love to hear your perspective, Shobie, on our profession today, what you're seeing out there, the convergence of acceleration and disruption and opportunity. And just curious, are you bullish? Are you bearish? Where are you at, Shobie? Welcome.
Very good to be here with you, Dan. Fabulous podcast. I've listened to many of your podcasts. Thank you for having me. I am always incredibly bullish about the positive impact of technology on the world, and specifically in our case, human health. With aging populations and chronic diseases are becoming increasingly prevalent now. So the challenge for our industry and broadly the healthcare industry isn't how we can keep up with treating disease, but how we can intervene and prevent it and reduce the healthcare burden on economies around the world. So it's an unprecedented moment for human health, and the opportunity to accelerate scientific progress with data, AI, ML is something that we should all run at with everything that we have got. So that is what makes me incredibly bullish about the opportunity.
Incredible. And I always appreciate how you bring it right to the North Star. You always start there, you end there. It's fantastic. So let's kind of build on that perspective and look out at the horizon. Maybe you pick the date, 2030, 2035 might be too far, but what should we be doing now to be successful in the next chapter, Shobie? I know you have a great ability to look around the corner, and so kind of articulate that, maybe what you're seeing. And also, part of your brilliance is what doesn't change, right, along the way.
Well, let me maybe start with what doesn't change. I think it's a useful basis to start with. For us at GSK, our core purpose is to create transformational medicines and vaccines and help people live healthy lives. And we don't do tech for tech's sake. I'm only interested in building tech that helps us in our core mission. So that doesn't change. Our culture is about ambition for patients, accountability for impact, and then doing the right thing. That doesn't change. Technology can come and go, science can change, but our culture is to be really focused on our patients and get it done. I think that doesn't change. And I've been part of many incredible transformations in my career. And I always, the consistent thing has been smart, capable, courageous people who collaborate in incredible ways. That has always been the main ingredient and recipe for success. I think that will not change. And anytime we have to navigate change or cross a Rubicon of any sort in careers or in industries, leaders and leadership matters a lot. It turns out it matters a lot. I don't think that's going to change either. So, those are all things that sort of are time insensitive, so they carry on and timeless in that sense. That said, a lot will change. Work as we know it, I think, will change. We have a seminal, once in a generation general purpose technology that I think is emerging at scale now. I think we're watching it being birthed in very interesting ways. The quality of machine intelligence is going up by the minute. I've never seen this space and iteration cycles move this fast. And the cost of intelligence is going down quite rapidly as well. So this is going to naturally disrupt industries at scale. And it will take time to integrate this tech into workflows, and which are typically, largely calcified and ossified in big companies like ours. But smaller companies will adapt them faster. But even if it takes time to integrate this tech, work as we know it is going to change. Business models are going to shift. The basis for competition will evolve. And naturally, in these moments, there will be winners and losers. And obviously, we strive to be on the winners quadrant, but it's a moment of incredible change. So to answer your very thoughtful question on what can we do now to be successful in the next decade, because a lot of the choices we make now is going to shape what the decade's going to look like for our companies. I think the first thing that comes to mind is getting the mindset right. I think it's a time to be intensely curious, observe patiently, learn and absorb what the underlying shift is that's taking shape. I mean, it's not just the people who talk loudly and the punditry, which is, I've never seen anything quite like it, but it's like seeing what's actually happening versus just what people are saying. And it is just hubris at this point to think that we have this all figured out and we each have what it takes to lead us through this shift. So I think I would emphasize curiosity and learning and internalization as an important trait. I would also avoid taking positions. Everything will change or nothing will change, or AI is going to change everything, or AI is going to change nothing. I would avoid taking positions that in the polarities too quickly, because this movie hasn't played out yet, and let the transformation unfold and act on opportunities that emerge with pace and passion and clarity. But don't be too quick to take positions on what's happening, because you're going to be wrong no matter what, right? You can't connect these dots forward, as we've heard people say. And I think it's important also for leaders right now, looking ahead at the next decade, to recognize how the basis of competition is shifting in our industry. For us, for example, I feel just as confident as anybody else in the industry that we have a complete thought on how science is going to be transformed with AI and ML. Our chief scientific officer owns that narrative. He cascades that narrative. Everybody believes in it. He's hiring with that narrative in mind. Tech isn't a side project. Tech is the core work for him. And yet, we realize that some of our competition is going to come from the disruptors. That's because in times like this, the haves and the have-nots get different advantages and disadvantages. This is one technology that sort of democratizes access to everything. So therefore, the have-nots are going to have just as much advantage. So the smaller biotechs, the smaller companies, countries where innovation has not been prolific in science, I think are all going to get the same access to technology as a big company like GSK does. So I think it's important to watch where the disruption is going to come from and make sure that we are balancing our investments and bets on both disruptive innovation and sustaining innovation smartly. The last thing, if I may add, is sort of the importance of also assessing and closing the capability gap. We can't have the same people do the same thing in the same way and then expect different results. So it's important to really review your capabilities very closely and then assess what the gaps are and close them very thoughtfully. And I think, and this is something that everyone's beginning to do already, but when tectonic shifts are underway, I think building literacy and fluency in the new tech across the board with as many people as possible, not just for the elite few, I think is also a key leadership action to take early.
Shobie, I just took so many notes. I'm going to go back and listen to that answer about 3 times, because that was amazing. Thank you for that. Avoid taking positions. I haven't heard that before, right? That's just such a smart guidance to people. Can you talk about, when you think about competition and positioning your company for success, velocity, agility, how do you build that in the organization? maybe think about it from a top to bottom, board, C-level, all the way to the grassroots, because we know we're going to have to go faster to be successful.
Well, I think about speed all the time. I don't think my team enjoys it as much as I enjoy thinking about the pace. But I think the first thing that comes to mind is at moments of seminal transitions, starting points matter. So I think recognizing and capitalizing on your advantages and being thoughtful about how to then manage your disadvantages becomes super important for us. The fact, a disadvantage is that we are a big company. We have to change a lot of things in order to, drive the vehicle in a new direction. It's a big ship, not a speedboat. That's a disadvantage. We have to manage that in times of massive change where a much smaller company can get access to the same level of intelligence and data, et cetera, as probably some of the bigger companies can. The advantage we have is that we were preparing for a digital transformation. Our digital transformation was well underway, and it's underpinned by data. So we had gotten our data house in order. We had done a lot of ground foundational things that sort of just gave us a natural and gentle pivot towards scaling AI. So I think it's really important for each of us to realize what our unique context is, what our starting points are, so that we can then decide how to build velocity and agility from where we are versus an imaginary starting point in the future or in the back, right? So to your question is a really important one to unpack, and I will do my best to do it. But the strategic alignment at the top and lining up of incentives is definitely an important factor. And I've been incredibly lucky to have that in spades at GSK. We have a company strategy, and that is very, very clear. We have specifics on what we're going to accomplish in the next 10 years. We've laid out the strategy, and we are executing it impeccably. And we have shared publicly what GSK will deliver in the next 10 years, and we're on the path to do that. Our CEO and board believe that technology is an essential contributor to the outcome, which is why the core purpose of the company, I didn't write this, the company's mission statement is uniting science, tech, and talent to get ahead of disease together. So there has been an intentional decision to place technology at the core of our company's purpose, which is what every employee reads every time they go through their onboarding or training or anything else. And we talk about at the top of the house, at both the exec team as well as at the board, about playing offense and defense responsibly. And I frankly feel super lucky to be working with an exec team and a board that are not just tech savvy, but also understand the risk of not playing to win in a moment like this and adopting this technology sensibly. That in itself is a risk to the company in the future. And there's real recognition for that, and therefore support for the bets that we have to place in what is really frontier work, not just playing defense with, let's protect ourselves from bad AI, right? And while the tech team are stewards and catalysts of tech adoption and have an enormous responsibility to deliver as well, we have intentionally set this up as a business strategy for a digital era. So we only work on those things that have line of sight to value. It's led by the business. We are there to make it happen, but it's led by our business units, our head of supply chain, our head of R&D, our head of commercial, and our CEO of our HIV business. They own the priorities and set the compass, and then all our teams together come through to execute. And I have joint objectives with my peers, which we cascade, as appropriate to our line leaders as well. And then we line up our investment plan to our strategic vision. So there is no bottoms up in those elements. This just gives us the boundaries for the investment and planning and governance to ensure that we deliver where we said we would. But the second element, beyond strategic alignment and incentives lining up across all the stakeholders, is capabilities. When you are charting a new course, it's really important to make sure that there are enough people on the team who understand the target state. Otherwise, we're led by consultant opinions and incremental thinking and a lot of missteps. So getting the wrong people off the bus and getting the right people on the bus, as Jim Collins would say, is an important foundational work as well. And that's true for our partners, not just our internal teams. So I think about capabilities a lot and whether we have the right capabilities at the right time. And then comes this enormous opportunity to harness the interest and energy of the entire organization. I sort of had this intuition that fluency across the company matters for a while now, but the level of engagement and interest that people have shown when we made an attempt to move the data fluency and the digital fluency and the AI fluency along has genuinely surprised me. It's completely floored me. We started it as an event called DataCon, as an event for just data analytics practitioners, 400 of them to come together. And, since in the past 5 years, it's grown to having 10,000 people tune into the event, 1,500 plus training sessions this year on AI. Like there's just this enormous interest from the ground on upskilling themselves. So when you help people see the vision, there's alignment at the top on what matters and how technology is going to be a differentiator. There's real hunger from the bottom to go do something about it in their individual work. And whether that's these fluency efforts that we put out there, or just use of AI at an individual level. We have 52,000 people logging in every month into our AI assistants, and they're using them for individual productivity. There's curiosity, ideas. Some of the leaders, especially our scientists and leaders of some really complex manufacturing processes, talking about how they will integrate digital twins into their design, etc., are incredibly heartening. It just makes my job definitely easier. So those are probably three things I would call out for engaging the whole organization and bringing it along.
It's all fascinating. And some things you just said, business strategy for the digital era. It drives me crazy, Shobie, when I talk to a CIO and they say, come help us build our AI strategy. I'm like, you don't have an AI strategy. You have a business strategy, right? And enabled by all these capabilities and there's new things. And the energy thing, Shobie, that's so good, right? Because if you can find that way of energizing people around the purpose and the mission and human health, as you described it, their purpose becomes very meaningful, right? So, yeah, I love that. How do you address, and I don't know if you call it this, I do, but the middle management layers, right, are often called the frozen middle, right? They get stuck. I know, there's different reasons for that. The people in the trenches are taking their cues from them, right? They don't get a lot of access to Shobie every day because you're so busy traveling around the world. How do you shift the frozen middle to the magic middle? Any thoughts there, Shobie?
Well, I think the one I'll probably start with a quote I'll borrow from a previous boss who said, "Shobie, in technology, finding the shortest path from the consumer to the producer is the best, most effective way to always be relevant and delivering value." So I try to find the shortest path between the consumers of something and the producers of that thing as much as I can in what I advocate for. I don't, it doesn't matter how many chiefs you have in the title. Sometimes you can't control how large organizations work. But it's a really important question, and I don't want anyone to feel like they're frozen or irrelevant. But I generally see people fall into, especially leaders, sorting themselves into three buckets when faced with big tectonic shifts. The first cohort are people who are intrepid warriors. They see the future, or they think they see the future, it doesn't matter, and they have the fortitude and the courage and the capability to lean into it and shape it. They don't wait for the future to emerge, they try to create it. So it's sort of, these are people who find it hard to see failure mode. They just go at whatever's coming. So I get great energy from them. There are many times they can be wrong, but the fact that they try makes them far more successful because they fall and get up many times, and therefore they nail it in the end. So I think there are always the intrepid warriors in any organization, and they have to be absolutely channeled and supported and empowered, but also set up for success. The second cohort of people are and this can happen at the top, the middle, or the bottom, but the second cohort are what I call the cautious companions. And I'm literally making this up for the conversation. It's not like I have a book on it or anything, but the second cohort are the cautious companions, but they are incredibly powerful change agents, in my opinion. They tend to be the more cautious and grounded ones in that they need to see the path before they start walking, unlike the intrepid warriors, but they also tend to be very respected and trusted because they're usually reliable and balanced advocates for others who are fearful of change. These leaders are naturally fearful of change. They just want to understand how it's going to unfold, so they can, they don't want to be the ones failing on the journey. So they're going to make sure the path is, cleared before they can lead people into it. When they shift, I find that others shift with them. And I can name people in my career over and over again. When the cautious companions shift with the incredible and intrepid warriors, I think it's incredible because a lot of people will follow. They speak familiar language to the more, especially when new leaders come in and try to change the organization. You're largely generating a resistance that's proportional to the change that you're trying to drive. So you're not being heard the same way as someone who's been around, who's reliable and trusted is heard. So really investing in identifying, and supporting and bringing these cautious companions along is a highly leveraged activity, and I would add it to the top of my list of things to do when I go into leading change again, because that's the only way the whole flywheel is going to build momentum. The third cohort are usually the non-believers, and some are passive non-believers who just go along for the journey, whatever the journey is, and others are likely to be active non-believers who can hold back progress. So the last sub-cohort needs thoughtful attention and action. Otherwise, you can land up, jeopardizing progress. But in general, I find that finding people where they are versus where I want them to be, making the unfamiliar familiar patiently. There was once one of my leaders told me, Shobie, transformations are like going from being a butterfly to caterpillar. And if the leaders who've been through these transformations come in and talk to us in caterpillar language, butterfly language to caterpillars, it's a bit overwhelming because we want to go on the transformation, but you're speaking an entirely another language. So you have to make a lot of the unfamiliar familiar, and recognizing that not everyone will make the trip to the new frontier and are all things that you have to figure out sooner or later. If you have to be successful, you're going to figure those things out one way or another, the easy way or the hard way.
So on the fly, that was pretty special, Shobie. There's intrepid warriors like yourself. There are the cautious companions and the non-believers. And well said. Shobie, we've got 4 mystery questioners, people who know you well, from different parts of your journey. And I want to bring the first one in. Her question is amazing. It's going to really help us understand more about you, and how you go about rewiring yourself as a leader, right? And so let's just listen in. You're going to know who this is right away.
Hi, Shobie. It's a challenge to stay current on tech possibilities and capabilities, as well as understanding the associated risks when you make a bold bet on a new technology or proof of concept. What do you personally do to enrich your own professional and technical development or awareness?
Well, thank you, Diane. Really, really appreciate that question. That was very kind of you to do that. And first, let me think. I think it's a great question. And first thing I would say is I try to surround myself with really smart people. I don't think there is quite a substitute for that. The single most important thing you can do if you're responsible to drive innovation at any time is have a network of people you can learn from and assimilate. And a lot of my ideas or my thoughts or clarity especially comes from micro conversations with a lot of people at different times, and then something percolates and something crystallizes and something emerges. So I think just having a network of smart people and staying connected and both feeding and nourishing that network, but also getting things back from it, I think is a smart thing to do. Not natural and easy thing to do, but I think an important thing to do. And the second thing I would say is to have a sense for where the edge of your knowledge is at any given time, and stay and grow there. It's a very hard thing for leaders to accept that there's an edge for their knowledge, and this is where they have to learn. But I find it absolutely fascinating to find that and stay there and surround yourself. And I think some of the most accomplished leaders that I have seen, even in sort of in their portfolio roles, after they finish their operating roles, would come and say, "I'm thinking about doing that. Like, is that okay?" And you have literally accomplished a whole career, and you're asking someone what to do. So I think there's just this important thing about staying at the edge and learning what you don't know, because that's what makes growth happen. I think it's also a great time for leaders to have more questions and less answers. I get immediately suspicious of people who are extra confident that they have it all figured out. I don't think that's the case in many cases. And then I read and listen to thought leaders in the areas that I'm interested in. And I collaborate with my industry peers like yourself all the time to see things through their eyes. Even if we compete on some level, we have a lot more in common than we have in difference.
Yeah, so good, so good. I love the edge of know the edge of your knowledge, right? We got to be self-aware, and things are moving so fast. Just accept it, right? And well, Diane Schwartz, just special people, Chief Information Digital Officer at Smurf at WestRock. She was our guest on episode 79, so not too long ago, and
Yeah.
great friend of.
And she makes it a mission to lift others up. I think it's just it's who she is. So
Yeah.
fabulous voice in the call.
Well, and you're both international globetrotters these days, so maybe you'll see her in an airport one day soon, and who knows where that
We
could
bump
be.
into each other a lot. Yes.
Yeah. I want to get to another one of our amazing mystery questions, but first, maybe you could help us understand, maybe just kind of back up for a minute. You've got a unique lens, your career journey, right? Maybe kind of talk about the span, the organizations, the industries you've been in, and how that's really helped you shape a special point of view.
I think my career, if I just look back, has been about half in the high-tech industry and half in the biotech industry. And I have always lived in San Francisco Bay Area almost all my adult life. That's home for me. And therefore, sort of, the geography has informed a lot of who I am and the work I've chosen or the work I've migrated towards. So I think I was just telling our exec team in September that you can take me out of California. I'm in London now, but you can't take the California out of me, whether you like it or not. So that's sort of stuck. But I've been at GSK for about 7 years, and part of that as the Chief Digital and Technology Officer for the past 4 years. I've spent over 7 years at AstraZeneca and Genentech and Roche. So those are all companies that I've been at and have seen their transformation through various lenses in those companies. So in some ways, the target state that we are trying to get to is familiar because I sort of started at Genentech, which is a very specialty-focused oncology company, which is sort of, many pharmas have had to go through a transition to become a more specialty company from primary care. So that has sort of been a big part of who I am and my career. I would say that, being able to deliver technology in service of science feels like a intellectually worthy pursuit, but also very quickly, things become very personal when you're talking about diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's. Being in this environment where we all have a patient in our life. I lost my mother to breast cancer, my aunt to breast cancer. These stories quickly make you think, oh my God, I want to be as close to, I can't be a scientist, but I can do the next best thing. So I think that's sort of informed a lot of my choices. And then I've been at Salesforce. I was with Infosys for several years, spent 7 of those years at Apple, at a very crucial time for Apple when they were just coming back from, like, literally, if you can imagine Apple being a bankrupt company to having all these incredible products. So I learned a lot there. I was a junior technologist building and delivering systems, but I think it's an indelible part of my memory on what innovation is really all about. And it's about focus. It's about pulling through and action, not just talking about it. And it's about moving fast, not just breaking things. It's just moving fast and building things is, I think, the way I would describe. So I think the geography and the industries have played a big role in shaping my career, but also in many ways circularly shaping who I am and the choices I made.
Yeah, that whole Bay Area and Silicon Valley, it's that whole eureka, right? It goes back to the gold days, and it's just that culture permeates, and it's in your pores, right? So how do you advise your friends, your peers who didn't grow up there, who may not have that experience in tech like you have? What do you do?
I think the world is a much more democratized place now than probably it was in the early 2000s. So I think Silicon Valley has figured out how to export itself quite well. So I don't think it's hard to appreciate it. It's also a very loud industry, so it's hard to get away from all the opining that goes on there. So I don't think it's as much a mystery. I think it's more the subtle nuances that I think are hard to pick up. For example, I can for every big persona tech CEO who says the world is changing tomorrow, there's also these incredible CEOs who are quietly making things happen, but have this deep insight. They're systems thinkers. So I think some of the qualities of Silicon Valley are naturally exportable, and it's there everywhere. It's just the confluence of all of it, and the density is great in Silicon Valley, but it's not like I see the London ecosystem. It's quite interesting. The ecosystem in Israel, the life sciences ecosystem in Boston. There's this the startup ecosystem in India. China surprises me massively whenever I visit. I think there's a lot more innovation going on than in Silicon Valley. So it's not that exclusive anymore, in my opinion. But I will say the density and the volume is definitely still high, and it still has an advantage unless it squanders it. So my advice would be to, again, as I said, get to know smart people and get smart advisors, and genuinely be curious is all I would say.
Yeah, well said. And a few minutes ago, you talked about how you keep yourself sharp and know the edge and keep pushing that. You talked about your engagement with thought leaders, right? So this next mystery questioner, I'm on this quest to unpack what makes people like Shobie so special, right? So different. And so this next questioner knows you really, really well. And so I can't wait for you to hear this question. So let's listen in.
What I really love and admire about Shobie is that she has this ability to consume what she hears as real thought leadership and then adapt it in any situation she's facing with the essence of what she hears and applies it in novel ways. Not many people can do that on the fly. And in this dynamic world of digital transformation meets AI, that means everything.
Wow. Who's that?
Oh, that's Kat. That's Karen Antetta. I don't think I can unhear her voice in my head. So no, thank you, Kat. That's a very generous compliment coming from you.
Well, I can't wait to hear your answer. I've been waiting for this question, and it's just really part of your superpower. So yeah, unpack all that for us.
I think it probably goes back to the earlier question you asked a little bit, which is what are you absorbing from the world around you? I think in many cases, you don't have to be the innovator. Some people are lucky to be the innovators. You just have to be very good at detecting the patterns that matter and implement it effectively in the environment for the problems that you're solving. So for me, I still talk to Kat pretty regularly. There are a lot of interesting people and thought leaders that I like to spend a lot of time with. When I'm doing it, it might feel like I sometimes think about this, how my team sees it through when they see me spending a lot of time in what feels like white spaces. But white spaces are incredibly important for innovation, because it's very easy for leaders to obsess over that few balls in the air that they are executing, they are focused on. But if you don't observe the white space, you don't analyze the white space, you don't connect the dots in the white space, it's really, innovation is not something that just sort of births from within you. Even Steve Jobs went to Xerox PARC to get inspiration, right? So I think this recognition that it's pattern recognition and scaling the pattern to apply to different areas is a big part of driving innovation. Drives how I connect with people, what I listen to, who I spend time with, how much time I spend in the white space, seeing what might be coming. And in the white space, you're probably as much wrong as you are right. So you want to also be comfortable with trying to think through something and knowing that it'll be wrong. But I find that it's incredibly rewarding to look around the corners. And I think I naturally have a Probably I feel intellectually satisfied when I get a comprehension of how systems work versus just components work. It's just intellectually satisfying for me to see the systems and the forest and the trees. So probably those are probably what Kat picked up there, and pretty astutely, I think. Yeah.
She's amazing. Karen Ann, everyone knows, loves her. She and Diana McKenzie were my guests on episode 48. And I was getting a question literally every week from CIOs preparing for the next chapter. And I thought, I'm going to go talk to two people who have done a phenomenal job of setting themselves up for their portfolio career. So if that's on people's minds, go listen to Karen Ann and Diana. They're just special people. And for those who don't know Shobie, Karen Ann was your boss for a while, right? At GSK.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you were her successor.
Yep.
Amazing.
I thought to myself when I met her first, I'm either going to hate it or love it, but I can't ignore it. I have to work with her. So, and I loved it.
Yeah, what a gift.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. Thank you, Karen Ann. And Shobie, you talked earlier about the purpose of GSK, uniting science, technology, and talent, and you have this big ambition, positively impacting 2.5 billion lives by the end of the decade. So I just want to set that as context. So with that purpose in mind, you're becoming an ambassador of the company more and more. I see them putting you out there more, and I think it's brilliant on the company's part. So maybe talk about that more active role as a technologist, right? And you talk about the transformational moment in health. I mean, how do you think about these things, Shobie, as you take on these new roles? Because in the past, the CIO was not the person out front, right?
Yeah, I think there are several fantastic ambassadors for the company. I think I'm not a marketer. I'm a technologist, and I think I'm a business leader who believes that this industry can do immense good. And I think so. If I'm an accidental and very uncomfortable ambassador, then I'll sort of own it, no problem at all. But as I said before, our purpose is to really focus on prevention, being able to intervene and change the course of disease through the use of technology where we can, create incredible medicines and vaccines, and impact the lives of 2.5 billion people on the planet positively by the end of the decade. So those are all like such big numbers. There was a moment where we wrote all that down and we're like, how are we going to track that we are influenced and touching 2.5 billion people? Now we do, apparently. Emma's figured it out. But the bottom line is it's a serious company with a serious mission. And therefore, for us, making everything we build count is not hard to do when you have such a serious purpose where our patients measure the success of their lives by or our treatments for them by whether they lived 6 months longer in some cases in chronic cancer, in some really difficult cancers. So populations are aging. Why is this a transformational moment was sort of your question. And as I said before, I think populations are aging. Infectious diseases are spreading. Chronic diseases are a feature of adult life in most successful countries. And the healthcare burden on economies continues to rise. So it's not just a health problem, and a human problem. It is also an economic problem. So there is a recognition that transformational medicines that can prevent and treat disease are definitely valuable. And even as that happens, that's the backdrop of health and healthcare. Even as that happens, there are really positive shifts happening at the intersection of science and technology, where data and AI/ML are giving, and the latest generation of the foundational models, and also all these incredible computing capabilities that are coming out, which has been the limiting factor for a lot of science in some ways, are giving scientists new tools to make sense of biology. And more importantly, intervene at the right moments and steer it. I'm not a scientist, so I won't pretend to understand how that works, but I know exactly, I hang out with some really smart scientists and they know what they're talking about. But we have this incredible opportunity to use digital twins to simulate which patients would benefit from our science, and also to use insights from these digital simulations and AI models to design molecules and clinical trials to maximize the health benefit, but also the probability of success for our medicines, which is the right thing to do for all our stakeholders, including our shareholders. So this confluence of the acute need in healthcare and the incredibly powerful tools that can unlock value faster makes this an unprecedented and transformational moment in healthcare and in our industry. And we like to say this, I'm repeating what's been said about our industry before, but we are an industry where 90% of our ideas fail. Like, we celebrate the fact that we got 1 out of 10 right. And boy, does that help. But if we can change the dynamics of R&D productivity with access to technology, I think that is meaningful in so many different dimensions.
Shobie, as folks are looking for ways to learn and be inspired and be energized, I want to put another podcast on their radar. It's called Double Click. It's called The Double Click.
Yes.
And it's on the GSK website, and I'm hooked. I really appreciate it. So what is The Double Click?
I think Sophia, who's my head of communications, and I were sort of figuring out how to get better at storytelling because we have all this proof. We've generated all this proof. We have a company of 70,000 plus people that we have to reach with. They have to believe this change is happening, and we also want to attract the right talent to come work at GSK. So we were like sort of brainstorming what's the best way to get bring our stories to life. And what I wanted to do, and why we called it the double click, is typically there's a leadership tendency to pursue a personal glory. Not that anything's wrong with it, but it's, the leaders tend to want to climb Mount Everest and plant a flag at the top and talk about it, loudly on, about the moonshots we took and the other big events. And I wanted to go in the other direction, which is sort of make leadership and change leadership more accessible so that everyone can feel. Because back to my comments about the early days at Apple, it was on an average day we were building average things. It didn't feel like we were building a mountain. We just built important things and we worked together on things. My part in it was very, very small, but nevertheless, I think you could sense that a tectonic shift is underway. And for me, this I have this urge to normalize it and not make it something just only big personas and big leaders can achieve. And when we tell the story at the end, we tend to have a revisionist lens on it, which is it makes it sound a lot more clear and perfect and big and robust. It's not. It's on an average day, it's a lot of boring things, a lot of mistakes, a lot of learnings that occur. So ordinary actions lead to some extraordinary outcomes if it's done with clarity of purpose and momentum and the right intention. And we wanted to sort of bring that to life a little bit by talking to leaders who are leading the change right now on the front line. Let them be honest about their struggles, but also talk about when they've had successes, what's making them successful, so we can make all of this accessible to more and more people. Because there's this, it's sort of an antidote to the obsession with very famous storytelling at the other end of it. And I wanted to capture it as it's happening through the lens of people who are making it happen. But it may seem ordinary today, and one day may be completely not ordinary when we look back at it. So that's sort of my reason for it. It's the fact that it's resonating is really heartwarming, and we want people to believe that this is achievable not just by the elite few or the gifted few, but I think you don't need magical powers to lead change. It's pretty human.
Shobie, we're getting a mini MBA today. This is so fun. Thank you so much. Ordinary actions leading to extraordinary outcomes. And, there's just some days that are just long and hard and messy, and just got to continue to grit it and realize it's going to turn into something. And the latest episode of Double Click, and you're featured in it, of course, but one of your colleagues joined you and you made a comparison between endurance sports, which he does, and endurance work. I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm glad it's helpful. Yeah.
Shobie, I've got another mystery question. I've got two more, but this next one, again, someone that knows you well, you've worked together. And I just want you to talk about him when we come back, but then you're going to love his questions. So buckle up. We're going to hear about Shobie, the master communicator, which you will not take credit for, but you are. So listen in.
Hi, Shobie. I think you have many superpowers, but one superpower that I love the most is your communication skill. Your ability to communicate sideways, down, up in the organization, addressing the audience that you have, your ability to articulate any complex situation, issue, topic, and your ability to read people and adjust your style based on who you're dealing with to get the most out of it. It is master in class. I'm always an admirer of that. And so would like to hear from you. How do you harness that? And what tips and ideas or insights that you can provide so that people like me and others can learn from it?
It's Agam. Wow, it's really great to hear his voice. He's just left our team, but it's really great to hear his voice. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about your journey together, your relationship, and he's now the CIDO at or the Chief Digital Information Officer at Vertex Pharmaceuticals. But tell us about your collaborations.
Yeah, no, I think he was our Chief Technology Officer at GSK for many years. I think he just left our team very happy that he's leading technology for Vertex. And I think we were peers when we were on Kat's team. So we worked together really, really well as peers. And I think it was he was a great supporter of a lot of things we had to get done as I took the helm as at GSK. And what has probably been very important to recognize is that it's when we talk about building fabulous data products, AI systems, agent capabilities, all these fabulous capabilities that we deliver for growing our pipeline and growing our performance. All of that is underpinned by strong platforms and building the road ahead of where the cars are in some ways. And Agam has been an incredible partner in helping us build the roads ahead of where the fast cars are coming, and so that has allowed us to focus on creating value versus worrying about creating the road, building the road first. So I have a lot of gratitude for him and the rest of his team who are still here with us for the journey that we've been on. And in terms of his comments about the communication, I think I would simply I appreciate it. It's not something I know I even know what to say to, but I will say that a little bit of empathy goes a long way in when you're going through hard change. And I can't say that I always practice that. I also have a really unholy need for pace and shift and manifesting what needs to be. But I do find that being present for where people are and being able to bring as many people along on the journey is literally a key ingredient to the success. So you sort of figure out how to do it, and then you get better at it, I guess. So that's what I would say for in terms of his comments.
Thank you, Agam. I appreciate that. And I do have one more mystery question. I want to kind of pull some things together from what we talked about. It goes back to your culture at GSK, which is really special. So, on the website, it talks about it's something we all own. It's powered by the little things GSK people do every day to help us get ahead of disease together. It drives delivery of our strategy. It makes GSK a place where people can thrive. Being ambitious for patients, I love that. Accountable for impact, and making sure we always do the right thing is how we deliver for patients, shareholders, and of course, the people who work here. So with that big, bold vision, culture in mind, listen into this special mystery question.
How do you attract, retain, and develop the best talent for your organization?
Thank you, Deborah. That's very, very kind of you to tune in for this podcast. Deborah is our CEO of our Weave business, which is our HIV business. She is also the head of our global health. So literally the path to 2.5 billion, reaching 2.5 billion people goes through Deborah. What Deborah is also an incredibly passionate leader. All those qualities that I described on how you set up the organization for the future, she embodies all of them. She's incredibly curious, and when she says, she sort of really owns it. Like it's Weave's strategy. It's not a tech strategy. It's not an AI strategy. It's Weave's business strategy. She holds people accountable to integrate it. She pulls through and delivers it. She is always willing to make things better. She gets big, important things done. She's a fierce competitor, and she's a massive culture leader for us. Like on the global leadership team, she definitely embodies those cultural elements. So it's wonderful that her question is tied directly to the context that you provided about our culture. She literally embodies those things. But what I think Deb is also is just incredibly down to earth. And she would take on, like she took on the project to sort of supervise and make sure our new headquarters in London happens. And she started by putting in an employee listening a group. So she was incredibly thoughtful in bringing our employees' voices into how our office should look in our headquarters in London. So like Deb is just sort of ticks the box on great leadership, great curiosity, definitely the intrepid warrior, and then just such a icon for our culture. So it's really great to have her voice in this.
Thanks for the background on that relationship. And she was asking you about really digging into your talent strategy, right? Retaining, developing, attracting, because you've got an amazing team. You always talk about your team.
I think our purpose is a great canvas to attract talent. I think I find that what we do is incredibly energizing for people. So if you had to choose being a data engineer at a retailer versus being a data engineer working on one of our problems, it's sort of an easy sell. Like it's just our purpose is a natural canvas. We don't even have to work hard. We just have to tell the story to get people attracted to the problems we solve, because these are hard problems, and being part of solving them is very exciting for people. I am much more, as you can probably tell from my conversation today, I'm much more keen to attract people who are in it for collective success versus individual glory. We call it winning together here. And that is, important to me, because much of what we build is like a complex music composition, a fugue or a jazz piece, if you will, where there's a lot of collaboration to ultimately create the experience and the outcomes we want. So you want to really have people who are not just competent, but are willing to teach and lift others up and bring people on the journey. So I don't think there's any point in having a bunch of A players who can't work together. We do go for top talent, but we want to really emphasize this ability to focus on collective success. The second thing I would say is, as a principle, we absolutely hire the best talent we can get, but we are not trying to turn GSK into Google. We are a multimodal team, which means that some of our teams will continue to support and enable mission critical but very traditional technologies. That's part of our company, and we love it, and that's important. And we then have also cutting edge digital and AI capabilities working in very digital native ways and on some of our emerging tech. So we have a hiring strategy that allows us to honor both, but also adapt to both. So when we are hiring our digital native teams, we hire them exactly like Google would. And then we also deeply respectful of all of the fact that we have to run all these legacy systems to keep GSK and a company like GSK alive. So I try to be sensitive to making it a home for all kinds of people who have to come together to make the work happen. And lastly, I think probably the important bit to remember is that A players hire other A players, and you will have a very rapid descent into mediocrity if you can't hold the bar high. So I think unknowingly for my teams, I obsess over people. In fact, we run our top leadership team as the top 50 leaders, not just the top, me and my LT. Like we have our tech senior leaders group, and I obsess over the capability, the learning, the development, and the hiring of all of them. So I take my +1 approval very, very seriously, very annoyingly so for my team.
Yeah, well, it matters, right? And those are big decisions today. And what's the expression in the Bay Area? A players hire A players, B players hire C players, right? Is that
Like
did I have
that,
that
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 Interesting. Well, thank you, Deborah. And again, thanks to your team for helping me with some of these great mystery
Oh,
questioners.
they've been
Sophia,
incredible.
yeah,
Yes.
Rowena, and just really appreciate their help. I'm not going to use their last names because I don't want anybody to poach them. They're so good. So, Joey, this time has flown by. This has been so fun. I'm going to go back and listen again, probably a couple times because it's just so many rich nuggets, so many what I've called Shobie-isms. I'm going to be quoting you a lot, and so special. And we're going to work on an article together, and I'm not going to give it up. I'm going to make people wait to find out the topic because there's so many different directions I'd like to take with that. But Shobie, you're running around this globe and doing such great work. Thank you for taking time to come share with us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.